Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Wow, it's hard to believe that this is Thursday, I guess. The week is almost over. Where does time go? Of course, what a special week this has been, Holy Week, as we head into the Easter weekend. A lot to cover again today. A blue state senator flew to El Salvador to visit the deported migrant in prison that the mainstream media has become so infatuated with. Prison officials in El Salvador, sorry, you can't see them. We have all the details of this. It was an attempt to get publicity. Meanwhile, the mother of a young woman brutally raped and murdered by an illegal, again from El Salvador, says no one from the Biden administration has ever reached out to express their condolences for her loss, although Trump did prior to being inaugurated and has stayed in touch since then. By the way, this U.S. Senator also has not reached out to her, yet he's flying to El Salvador trying to talk to another person accused of heinous crimes. The battle of trans rights continues in the state of Maine, this time in the Miss Maine USA Beauty pageant, where Bill Belichicks, a 24-year-old girlfriend, will be competing against a trans model. Wow, we have the full story on that. And in the South Carolina Legislature, negotiations between Statehouse leaders seem to have stalled on a broad tort reform package backed by Senate Republicans, but apparently not by House leadership. The Post and Courier reporting that this issue is most likely dead for the year.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Three top Pentagon officials are now suspended as part of the Defense Department's investigation of unauthorized information leaks. Politico reported yesterday that the third known related suspension involves Colin Carroll, who had been serving as Chief of Staff to Deputy Defense Secretary Stephen Feinberg. The Carroll suspension follows two other Pentagon officials who have been removed from their positions as part of this same review of proprietary Pentagon information, ending up with unintended recipients. The Signal app, the Signal Gate, I guess you could call it. One of the two, Dan Caldwell, senior advisor to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, was placed on administrative leave and escorted out of the Pentagon by security on Tuesday of this week. This was confirmed by Newsmax reporter Mike Carter. The third suspension, according to Politico, involved Darren Selnick, the Pentagon Deputy Chief of Staff, also suspended and escorted from the Pentagon. Politico reported that the sensitive information that went outside the allowed government recipients included military operational plans for the Panama Canal, a second carrier headed to the Red Sea, Elon Musk's controversial visit to the Pentagon, and pausing the collection of intelligence to Ukraine. The Pentagon has not posted a release about these personnel matters. We'll see. And look, if they were involved in allowing this breach of security, and it was a breach, to have top officials like that literally having a member of the media on their chat messages, they probably deserve to lose their job, don't they? Speaking of losing their job, embattled New York Attorney General Letitia James wasn't very talkative to reporters outside of her Brooklyn home yesterday. She refused to answer questions about her simmering mortgage fraud scandal. Couldn't have happened to a better person. Miss James, who infamously declared when she was talking about Donald Trump, of course, no one is above the law. Well, when prosecuting former President Donald Trump, that seemed to be her attitude. Now, maybe a little bit different. According to a letter obtained by the Post, James, who draws an annual salary of $220,000, allegedly falsified records to get sweetheart home loans for a Virginia property she claimed as her principal residence in 2023. Now, she was Attorney General of the state of New York. You have to live in the state of New York to be Attorney General. That has to be your primary residence in order to vote and to be elected. This was no oversight. She did this intentionally, thinking nobody would ever look back on it. The letter, written by Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte to Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche, also claims that Ms. James purchased a 5-family dwelling in Brooklyn in February of 2001 that she consistently misrepresented as only having 4 units, both in building permit applications and in her mortgage documents. Pulte included several documents in the letter that also showed James purchased a property in 1983 and in 2000, co-signed by her father, but, you ready? Falsely listed the pair as husband and wife. Why would you do that? Why would you list your father as husband and wife unless you get some kind of preferential treatment as a couple for the loan? I don't know. He told Attorney General Bondi, Ms. James, for both properties listed above, appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. Pulte said this could amount to criminal charges, including wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, and false statements to a financial institution, among others. Some of the very things that she accused the Trump organization of doing. Do you think we'll actually see the no one is above the law concept applied to Miss James? Or are they going to try to turn this and make it sound political? The only reason she's being prosecuted is because she's the Attorney General who prosecuted Donald Trump, that this is political retaliation. And, of course, I believe she'll throw the race card in, too, just for good measure, because she's black. She happens to be a black female Attorney General. That's why they're coming after her. A spokesman for Miss James' office, in a statement, said Attorney General James is focused every single day on protecting New Yorkers, especially as this administration weaponizes the federal government against the rule of law and the Constitution. She will not be intimidated by bullies, no matter who they are. See, there, I told you. Weaponizing the federal government. I knew they were going to throw that out there, didn't you? Yeah, suddenly, I don't guess it was weaponizing state government when she was going after the Trump organization because she hates the Trumps. That wasn't any type of weaponization of her office at all, was it? But suddenly, when it appears that she really did something, that she really falsified these documents. I mean, when you claim that your father is your husband, not once but twice, that's false. That's falsifying the records, right? Am I misinterpreting that? When you claim that your primary residence is in Virginia to get a nice loan in Virginia on a Virginia property, yet you're the Attorney General of New York, the state of New York, you have to be registered to vote, a qualified elector to seek office in New York. But no, nobody will ever notice this. I'll just put down here that I'm a resident, that this is my primary home in Virginia. Nobody will ever notice. She had to have known when she was on her witch hunt into the Trump organization, she had to know that this was going to come back and bite her. Don't you think? I mean, do you think anybody in their right mind would never think that maybe if you had this skeleton in your closet, that you really had falsified loan documents, but yet you're going after a former president of the United States, and at the time, soon to be a future president of the United States, and you go after him because you think you can keep him from being elected again, and you go after him for supposedly falsifying information on documents to get a preferential treatment or to get better terms on a loan, on property taxes. She had to have known. Is she just that stupid? Is she really that dumb to think that she can go after someone, she can politicize her office, and no one's going to start looking into her history? Is she that dumb? She deserves to be prosecuted. She deserves to be found guilty. She deserves to lose her position. Surely the people of New York will want to remove her from office. Surely the people of New York will be embarrassed that their chief law enforcement officer falsified documents to get better loan treatment, to get a better interest rate. You know, this is all about the loan and the interest rates. But like the home in Virginia where she claimed it was her primary home, she probably got property tax breaks there as well. If she claimed that as her primary home, she probably owes some back property taxes as well. Maybe the state of Virginia needs to be looking into that. There's so many things wrong with this picture that we can't just let them sweep this under the rug. She has to be held accountable and made an example of. Hi, Joey Hudson here. You know, this spring there's a renewed energy and focus on efficiencies, and shaking up unhealthy habits don't serve us well. There's so much chatter about making America great again, but it starts in your home with you being the best, healthiest version of yourself. And PhD Weight Loss is doing their part because for the first time ever, the first 11 callers get 2 free weeks added to your weight loss program. That is huge. PhD's out to prove that you don't need Big Pharma to reach your goals. It just creates dependency, not long-term change. Dr. Ashley Lucas researched weight loss trends for years and discovered a scientifically proven way to retrain your body to burn fat efficiently without hunger, extreme exercise, or dangerous medications. PhD clients watch their belly fat disappear, their energy skyrocket, cholesterol and blood pressure normalize without starving themselves. I lost over 30 pounds and I've never felt better. So call now and mention promo code Joey for my 2 weeks for free with my program. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or go to myphdweightloss.com. We've seen it firsthand, the infighting within the Democrat Party. But with the election of some of the new and improved, if you will, leadership in the Democrat National Committee, you really see a civil war within their party. Vice Chair David Hogg, this young man who came on the scene years ago after the Parkland High School shooting. He's a survivor. He's an activist. He has a novel approach to get the Democrats winning again. He wants to spend $20 million to take down long-serving lawmakers in Democrat primaries. He's 25 years old. He said yesterday, everyone in our party says they want to start winning again, and they do. But that simply will not be possible with our current set of leaders, too many of which are asleep at the wheel, out of touch, and ineffective. Now, I can't argue with him. He's right. They do have a lot of leaders asleep at the wheel. They are out of touch. They are ineffective. But I don't know that as vice chairman of the Democrat National Committee, that's something that you really want to air in the public. An organization that Hogg co-founded in 2023 called Leaders We Deserve unveiled plans to target incumbent House Democrats in safe seats, though the group did not mention any names specifically. Now, I'm not quite sure how that works. A party leader targeting elected officials within their party. If he wanted to go after these party leaders, I'm not so sure that he should have accepted the vice chairmanship of the DNC. The public criticism of elected Democrat officials has put Hogg at odds with DNC brass and left some party loyalists fuming. They're probably having buyer's remorse that they allowed this young man a party leadership role. A top Democrat source told the New York Post, David Hogg is interested in one thing and one thing only, David Hogg. And look, we have seen that side of him, haven't we? This young man seized the limelight in a horrific situation in 2018 when his high school was attacked. He was politically and media savvy enough to parlay that into a national prominence. This same Democrat source said whether it's using his PAC to enrich himself, raising money for only himself, or going on TV to talk about himself, his plan, like so many other lacklusters, is to use politics to get rich and amass a following. The source raised, this dude's got nothing else. He's full of you-know-what. Now, a Democrat staffer sarcastically said, David Hogg is an inspiration. One day, I'll be able to teach my kids about him and show that no matter how annoying you are and no matter how much you grift, you too can rise in political power and help a party that just got its rear end whooped, and I cleaned that up a bit, continue to lose, they said. Again, Hogg was elected as one of 3 DNC vice chairs back in February alongside Artie Blanco from Nevada and Pennsylvania State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta. Shortly after assuming the role, Hogg stepped into controversy for tapping into DNC contact list to solicit donations to the Leaders We Deserve Political Action Committee. They should have shown him the door then. He has lined his pockets, according to the New York Post, with more than $175,000 in salary since the PAC's inception. Typically, both the DNC and Republican National Committee are expected to stay neutral in primaries, and a high-ranking official from either party actively fundraising against their own incumbents is unheard of. We saw what that gets you in South Carolina, didn't we? This is a similar situation that we saw create a divide within the South Carolina House of Representatives when Freedom Caucus members refused to sign a party loyalty, which would have prevented them from challenging Republican incumbents. That's sort of the party line. And again, and as you know, I'm no big fan of the Democrats, but I'm not quite sure being vice chair of the DNC is where David Hogg needs to be if, in fact, he's going to be targeting some of the party's incumbents. Many Democrats believe the party's in a strong position to win back control of at least the House of Representatives in 2026, according to the Post. This, of course, because of historically the president in power, his party loses some seats in the midterms. Now, Hogg has vowed to spare Democrats running in battleground contests because he says he wants us to win the majority. There are concerns that he could transform straightforward primaries into money pits. Hogg has also insisted that his team isn't planning to target members solely based on their age. Venting to Politico Tuesday, we have a culture of seniority politics that has created a litmus test of who deserves to be here. We need people, regardless of their age, that are here to fight. He said no one can disagree that we need a new generation of leadership, but I'm not sure that this is the best use of limited resources when Democrats can make significant headways down ballot. Last month, top leaders in the DNC reportedly circulated a neutrality policy calling on DNC officials to withhold their support in these divisive contests. Hogg declined to sign it. DNC Chairman Ken Martin said in a statement, in order to ensure that we are an effective or as effective as possible at electing Democrats to office, it's the DNC's longstanding position that primary voters, not the national party, determine their Democrat candidates for the general election. David Hogg is a passionate advocate, and we're grateful for his service to the Democrat Party, whether it be in his role as a DNC vice chair or an outside capacity. Hogg did not respond to the Post for comment. Already several incumbent Democrats are facing primary challenges from younger contenders who want to bring the feistiness that AOC and some of the others have. In Illinois, influencer and former Media Matters for America staffer Kat Asbuga has announced plans to challenge incumbent Representative Jan Scholaski who hasn't said whether she intends to run again for a 15th term. In San Francisco, Saket Shakabari, the former chief of staff for Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is challenging former Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Ironically, Hogg and his team cited Pelosi and Sikorsky as examples of Democrat fighters who are delivering. It's a bit of a mixed message there, isn't it? Oh, wow. Wow. Look, I'm glad it's the Democrats and not totally the Republicans, although we have some of those as well. Maryland U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen was denied a visit with a Salvadoran migrant, an accused MS-13 member who was deported to El Salvador after flying to the country yesterday. Van Hollen had intended to visit Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was deported to El Salvador, the mega prison down there, the Terrorism Confinement Center, CCOT, for being an alleged MS-13 gang member, though his attorneys maintain he does not have any gang ties. This is the young man who has made headlines, who the Democrats have suddenly taken a great interest in. Van Hollen spoke to reporters from El Salvador yesterday when he vowed to continue pressing for access to Abrego Garcia. He met with Vice President Felix Guerrar because President Bukele was out of the country. He'd been in Washington, D.C., and you may recall that President Bukele made it very clear the other day that he would not be releasing Garcia. Van Hollen said that he was grateful to speak about the case of Abrego Garcia. He said, I asked the vice president if I can meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia, and he said, well, you need to make earlier provisions to go visit CCOT. Now, Van Hollen knew he wasn't going to get into that prison. This was a publicity stunt. He wasted his time and probably our tax dollars. How much you want to bet we paid for his airline ticket down there and any other travel expenses? Probably security as well. For him to grandstand knowing that he would never get to see this young man. Senator Van Hollen told Ulloa that he was not interested in taking a tour of CCOT and that he just wanted to meet with Garcia. Van Hollen said he was not able to make that happen. Well, of course he wasn't. You knew that going down there, Senator. When Van Hollen asked if he could come back next week to see Garcia, the vice president told him that he could not promise that either. The vice president also told the U.S. Senator that he could not even arrange for him or Garcia's family to speak with the inmate over the phone. The senator said the situation in El Salvador is, quote, unjust, and he accused the Trump administration of lying about Garcia. Van Hollen said, I'm going to keep pressing. I'll keep pressing in my remaining time here, and I'll keep pressing beyond that if necessary. The Supreme Court, as you may recall, last week, upheld a lower court's decision to facilitate the return of Garcia from CCOT, where federal officials have sent hundreds of suspected criminals and gang members. The Trump administration agreed to clear any administrative obstacles that are keeping Garcia from coming back to the U.S., but Attorney General Pam Bondi has said that returning him is up to El Salvador. If they want to return him, that's not up to us, she said. The Attorney General confirmed this again in a news conference.
It appears that there's not going to be any sort of trial. He's not going to come back. DHS said he would be arrested and redeported if he comes back. Why not show the American people the evidence that he's MS-13 so they can make an informed decision? And that goes the same with this Henry Josue Santos, who was picked up in Virginia, who is now presumably going to be deported as well. Why not show the public the evidence?
Well, he is an illegal alien who has been living illegally in our country from El Salvador. ICE testified. An immigration judge ruled he was a member of MS-13. An appellate judge ruled he was a member of MS-13. Hard stop. He should not be in our country. He was deported. They needed one additional step in paperwork, but now MS-13 is characterized as they should be, as an FTO, as a foreign terrorist organization. So he is not coming back to our country. President Bukele said he was not sending him back. That's the end of the story. If he wanted to send him back, we would give him a plane ride back. There was no situation ever where he was going to stay in this country. None. He would have come back, had one extra step of paperwork, and gone back again. But he's from El Salvador, he's in El Salvador, and that's where the president plans on keeping him.
As he should. He deserves to be in prison in El Salvador. Now, as you know, this has caused an outrage among Democrats. Senator Van Hollen being the first to announce plans to travel to El Salvador to, quote, help secure Garcia's release. I mean, did Van Hollen really think he would just show up in El Salvador and then turn this guy over to him? The senator said Mr. Garcia was illegally abducted by the Trump administration and by their own admission wrongly deported to El Salvador. Well, yes, the attorney general admitted that there had been a mistake, that one step in the process had been overlooked. But the bottom line is this: he would have been deported regardless. So why would you bring him back just to take care of that one little piece of paper and then send him back again? Why would you take that chance of having him on American soil? Senator Van Hollen went on to say he shouldn't have to spend another second day away from his family. I'm flying to El Salvador to check on his condition. And, of course, that's where he ended up yesterday. Now, Van Hollen is not the only Democrat discussing a visit with Mr. Abrego Garcia and other imprisoned migrants for that matter. Far-left representatives Maxwell Frost from Florida, Robert Garcia from California, they issued a joint letter in which they said that they are prepared to travel as soon as possible. In their letter, which was sent to House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, Chairman James Comer, Frost and Garcia requested authorization to send a congressional delegation to visit CCOT to conduct a welfare check on Garcia and other deported migrants at the prison. Again, I ask you, why are they suddenly concerned about some illegal aliens, about these murderers, about these rapists? Why aren't these Democrats this interested in getting the hostages back from Hamas, for example? If they had been this adamant about getting those hostages back, those poor people might be home with their families for Easter. But no, we don't want to hear the outrage for them. This whole issue with this murderer and these murderers and rapists and burglars, it's just beyond comprehension. Now, while Senator Van Hollen was grandstanding in El Salvador, the mother of a Maryland woman who, an illegal immigrant, again from El Salvador, raped and murdered her daughter in 2023, appeared at the White House after a jury convicted her daughter's murderer earlier this week. Patty Morin, whose daughter was brutally attacked, brutally murdered, brutally raped, said at the White House yesterday, to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledge my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen? Why does that person have more rights than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this. And none of us do, Ms. Moore. And I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm glad that your daughter's murderer is going to get what he is due. Ms. Morin appeared on the Hannity Show and expressed how horrifying it was to sit through the recent trial of her daughter's murderer and rapist.
First, you have to understand, and I think the American people don't understand, the gruesome brutality of the crime. And a lot of the details were left out when they gave us kind of like the outline of what they were going to present to the prosecutors. But when you were actually sitting in the courtroom, when we were there for the whole trial, and they showed over 500 pieces of evidence and very, very graphic crime scene photos and autopsy photos. And when you saw that 3/4 of her brain was hemorrhaged, that 3/4 of her skull was bashed in, she had a 6-inch square in the back of her head where the skull was shattered the way that you would crush an eggshell. She had her face was bashed in. She had literally bruises, contusions, scrapes all over her body. The murderer dragged her 150 yards as blood gushed out of her head into the tunnel. And then he put her up against the tunnel wall and raped her. And you could see her body, and you see the outline of blood from her head running down. So you see the outline of her body and blood on the tunnel wall. These are the kind of people that the Biden-Harris administration has allowed into our country. And they think that it's okay to defend them instead of defending my daughter and protecting us. I don't understand that.
Wow. And you know what? I'm sorry. No one understands that. We'll never understand that. God bless them. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Now, this is going to be kind of odd, interesting to watch. Bill Belichicks' 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, I'm sure you've seen photos of her. I mean, talk about the odd couple. How old is he? I was looking here. I don't see. He's old, okay? And she's 24 and a beautiful young woman. Well, she's going to be competing in the Miss Maine USA Beauty pageant coming up in May. Hudson finished as the first runner-up in last year's contest, and she's going back to win. However, she has some competition from an unlikely source. She wrote on Instagram, "As the daughter of displaced fishermen, I care to use my voice to protect the fleeting tradition and heritage of Maine fishing families to prevent others from going through the same plight as what mine had to go through." That's part of her platform. One of her competitors is a trans model named Isabel St. Cyr. St. Cyr will be the first openly trans contestant in the beauty pageant's history after previously winning the local Miss Monson USA pageant in the Maine town of Monson. Now, why would the Miss USA pageant allow this man in there to compete in their contest? Why? Have they not gotten the message that has been so loudly proclaimed by the American people that we're tired of this? We're tired of men wanting to compete in women's sports and now in women's pageants. St. Cyr wrote in a Facebook post, "When I started cheerleading, I had all the odds stacked against me." Well, you think so? You're a man wanting to cheer with a group of women? And yes, you probably did have the odds stacked against you. He goes on to write, "So much pushback, so many people telling me it wasn't a space for me. But I fought for what I loved, and I ended up being a very successful cheerleader, winning state and national titles and inspiring people to join, even if they hadn't been doing it their whole life." St. Cyr wrote, "I sense a similar trajectory in my ongoing journey with pageants. I believe I have everything it takes to be Miss Maine USA, and I know that no amount of experience can match a true passion and drive to accomplish something. Well, young man, here's what you're missing. You say that you have all of what it takes. You don't, because God created you a little boy, so you can't be Miss MISS Maine, regardless of what those dummy judges tell you. What's going to be crazy if this guy wins? And it wouldn't surprise me if they get a bunch of woke judges that'll do it just for the publicity. As you know, Maine's been in this heated battle on the ongoing national debate between blue state officials and the Trump administration over the issue of trans athletes in women and girls sports. It was the Maine governor, Governor Janet Mills, and education officials who've taken a hard stand to enable trans inclusion in sports, in high school sports. President Donald Trump has threatened to block federal funding to Maine because of it. The Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit against the state over the issue. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced at a press conference Wednesday of this week, yesterday, that the USDA issued a funding freeze to the state. The state has filed their own lawsuit against Trump and his administration over the funding freeze, and a federal judge ordered the administration to unfreeze the funding just last Friday. Another one of these activist judges telling the administration that they can't do this. Meanwhile, you have a coalition of Maine civilians strongly opposed to Mills and Democrat authorities since the issue began, prompting heated tension and debate among residents over trans inclusion and women's rights. The common folks in Maine, the normal ones, know just how wrong it is to have these men competing in women's sports. And they especially know how wrong it is to have this young man competing in the Miss Maine USA contest. Why would a beauty pageant allow this? I mean, beauty pageants aren't really thriving like they once were. When was the last time you watched a beauty pageant on TV? I mean, I remember as a kid, we all gathered around the TV when the Miss America pageant was on. That was a big thing. We wanted to know who the winner was. Not so much anymore. And especially when you start allowing men dressed up in dresses pretending to be women as being your contestants. I got a feeling this is going to fail miserably. Hey, real quick here, over the last couple of months, we've talked a lot about tort reform in the Palmetto State. A lot of bars, restaurants are struggling with the rising cost of insurance, with many going out of business in recent years. Liability reform has been a top issue in the South Carolina legislature this session. And according to the Post and Courier, it may have to wait another year. The Post and Courier reporting yesterday that negotiations between Statehouse leaders have stalled on this sweeping litigation package backed by Senate Republicans. The Senate passed a very broad package that will make a lot of good changes. The House passed their version, which just focuses on limited on liquor liability for the bar and restaurant industry. Liquor liability reform has been one of the most visible issues in the Statehouse this year. Over the past several years, we've had the concerns of bars and club owners and restaurants. They're spiking insurance costs, some quadrupling. I've heard stories of insurance premiums going from, say, $1,000 a year to $20,000 a year, and it's just put some of these mom and pop businesses out. So we would think that it would be a fair ask that our state legislature change the law that is preventing competition in the insurance industry. But it doesn't appear to be that simple. As after weeks of negotiation, and you have the state Senate with one version, their version of the bill, the South Carolina House with their version of a bill, having to try to come together and hash that out. What happened this week, the House overwhelmingly passed their version, sent it over to the Senate. In a move yesterday, now the House is not in session this week, the state Senate is. In a move yesterday, Senate leaders, Leader Shane Massey, who's one of the leading architects of the tort reform bill, objected to the House version of the bill moving forward in the Senate. And instead, they gutted the bill and pretty much just copied and pasted their version into the House bill, which basically kills that. So the only hope is that House leaders return and can settle some differences on the Senate version. And again, the Senate version of the bill, you've probably heard it, Senate Bill 244, it is more than just liquor liability. It addressed liability among all industries, because the bars and restaurants aren't the only ones. As you've heard over the past couple of months, I've had a number of guests on. I've had members of the Statehouse. I've had members of the State Senate. I've had a lot of business people. Just last week, I had Carl Sobocinski, owner of Table 301 Dining in upstate South Carolina, who knows firsthand how this has affected his business. I had Steve Spinks of the Spinks family convenience stores, who knows firsthand how this has affected his business. And they're trying to push House leaders to make a decision, to come up and to pass something, because if they don't do it before May the 8th, some of these businesses may not be around next year to see it done. So let me ask you to call your state House member and encourage them to at least let a vote happen. Put this bill out on the floor and take a vote, because your favorite restaurant, your favorite local bar and grill may not be around next year if they don't. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.